and welcome back to the Lunch Bunch. Today we are going to dive into Chapter 3, September, Directionally Challenged. The first month of kindergarten was a time of settling in. The kids looked forward to spending their days at school and felt less anxious about leaving their families. Ms. McAllister did not disappoint with her fabulous outfits. Her September wardrobe included an apple outfit with a bright red dress that had a pattern of yellow and green apples on it. Her ensemble was complete with a matching headband from the same material, bright green earrings, and coordinating red shoes. She was indeed as lovely as she was the first day. Miss McAllister was never without a smile or a kind word. She made the transition from summer at home to full days at school bearable for the youngest students. On one particular day in September, Class KM came in and saw that the question of the day was, "Have you ever flown on an airplane? Yes or no?" She asked the kids to stand up if they said yes. Up jumped Pooja, Francis, Matthew, and Andrew. She asked the children where they had flown from as she walked over to a map that was tacked on the wall. Pooja called out first, "I am from India." Francis wondered why she wasn't the first to talk, and then started in. "I flew from England. I was born in London, England. England is a country in the UK. The UK stands for United Kingdom." "Thank you, Francis," interrupted Miss M. "It is Andrew and Matthew's turn to share." Matthew took over. "We are from Scotland. Scotland is a country in the UK. The UK stands for the United Kingdom." And as he finished mocking Francis, he broke into a big smile. Miss M laughed out loud, but shut him down as well. Thanks to our international classmates for sharing. Let's move on to story time. The class was still buzzing after the recess excitement of their classmates' world travels when Miss M grabbed today's book and started reading. The Kindies finally started to settle in when there was a loud, familiar sound that made the whole class start to giggle. They couldn't help it. Granny in England had a name for that stinky noise. "Raspberry tarts," announced Francis. Matthew loudly remarked, "This room reeks, and raspberries in Scotland didn't smell like that." Brandon chimed in, "The room smells like death." Through her giggles, Ashley told the class, "When my mom hears those noises, she asks if someone sat on a duck." Then they heard gasping and giggling from Miss M. The mature teacher, Miss M, was just as entertained by the carpet fart. She couldn't even finish reading the book she had started. She shut the book and asked everyone to stand up, and she introduced a new song, "Shake My Sillies Out" by Raffi. The singing was loud and very enthusiastic after the escape toot. During seat work, which was usually difficult for Matthew, he walked over to Miss M and said urgently, "I have to go to the the bathroom." "Off you go then, Matthew," she said. The rest of the Kindie class was finishing the letter of the day and some counting pages when Pooja noticed her table mate was gone. She called across the room to Andrew. "Where is Matthew, Andrew? He needs to finish his work before he gets to go to the centers." Andrew looked up for a few seconds and replied, "No clue. Ask Brandon." Pooja was persistent. "Brandon, have you seen Matthew?" Brandon told Pooja, "He wanted to meet me at the block center when we finished our work, and I had been waiting for him forever over here. I'll ask." He turned to Miss M and asked, "Teacher, do you know where Matthew is?" Miss McAllister jumped up from her chair and had a worried look on her face. She looked at her watch and said, "Matthew asked to go to the washroom 30 minutes ago." By now, everybody in the class was aware that Matthew was missing. Andrew piped up, "Brandon and I can go to the washroom and tell him to hurry back if you want, Miss M." "Yes, please do that," she urged. When the boys returned without Matthew, the whole class was buzzing. The only person not concerned was Andrew. "He does this all the time. Matthew has no sense of direction and is probably wandering about the halls like a lost lamb." Pooja suggested paging him over the PA system. The office called out, "Matthew McMillan, please return to your classroom. Matthew McMillan, please return to your classroom." Easy, if you know where your classroom was, Matthew said to himself from wherever he was. After the announcement, when he still didn't show up, Francis suggested they get Mr. Smith to search the school. He must know every nook and cranny to find a boy with no sense of direction. Eventually there was a knock on the door. In walked a sheepish Matthew holding the hand of Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith dropped him off and loudly announced, "Thanks for all your help, Matthew." Mr. Smith made it seem to his class that his classroom hiatus was on purpose. Matthew went straight to work with the letter of the day. He kept his head down and powered through, practicing his name, and even counted without complaining. He had never been so happy to be inside this classroom. Snack time was pretty quiet. Matthew was focused on eating, and the other kids wondered what Matthew got to help Mr. Smith with. Francis met with the lunch bunch and ordered, "Meet me at the playground equipment at the second recess. I have very important news to share with you." During lunch, Pooja saw Brandon talking to Mr. Smith and murmured, "Ashley, Brandon is crying." Ashley replied, "I know. He'll get it together. Brandon worries about his family when he is not with them." The others were getting chattier with each other as they got to know each other. Frances could yammer on the entire lunch break and regale the kids with her British history, so Mr. Smith interrupted with questions for the others to make sure everybody got their chance to share in conversation. "How about a game of I Spy until the bell rings?" Mr. Smith suggested. The lunch bunch began a competitive game of I Spy. When it was Matthew's turn, he began, "I spy with my little Scottish eye something that is blue." The lunch bunch could never guess what he was looking at. Turned out he changed his pick, so they would never get it. Mr. Smith called him out on it, which made Matthew laugh like a hyena, and then so did Mr. Smith. "Time to put your lunches away and line up for recess," instructed Mr. Smith. Frances bent down and put her arm around Brandon's shoulder. She put her face right next to his and asked, "Is the saddest boy in the whole world ready to go outside for recess?" Mr. Smith responded quickly, "We only use kind words at school, Frances." Frances mumbled to herself. She saw nothing wrong with her word choices. She was only trying to cheer him up. The scolding didn't quiet her down one bit as she barked to the kids, "Don't forget, we have an important meeting at the playground equipment at recess." Thank you. That's the end of chapter 3.